We are now taking you live to Canberra. That's where the Sex Discrimination Commissioner Kate Jenkins is currently speaking at the National Press Club. Let's just listen in for a bit.
1984. Susan was my inspiration for developing the traits that I've applied every day in this role: pragmatism, persistence and patience. One thing that surprised and really disappointed her was that even decades after introducing the Sex Discrimination Act, there was still no direct requirement for employers to comply with the Act, as she had originally envisaged. She felt the lack of an employer duty or a positive duty in the Act was unfinished business, but more about that later. Over those 50 years then, we'd made some really significant and really important progress in addressing discrimination and gender inequality. And when you look at what drove that progress then, there was periods of very broad community engagement from everyone, including men. Advocacy was highly strategic and evidence-based. There was real political commitment. And consequently, we saw a range of profound legal, policy and social changes that are still in place today. Does it sound familiar? So I'm going to now jump forward to Thursday, October the 5th, 2017, 5 years ago. I'd been in the job for about a year and a half, and my team and I had been working hard and along the lines we'd mapped out. But for me, that was the day that changed everything in a way that was both profound and fundamental to what has happened since. I stepped off an international flight home and, as you do, turned on my phone. It lit up like a Christmas tree. The New York Times had just published its explosive report on Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. Shocking allegations of abuse, sexual harassment and serious cover-ups going back decades. Now, Hollywood is a very long way from here, but in the days, weeks and months that followed, it became clear that something had changed in Australia. The conversation about sexual harassment underwent a seismic shift. From a reluctant but resigned acceptance that this kind of behaviour, this kind of abuse, was an undesirable but somehow inevitable part of the working environment, to a sharper, angrier realisation that these behaviours were not and should never be considered inevitable, and they had to stop. Enter #MeToo. The Me Too movement hit Australia like a tsunami, as it did many other countries. People were angry. They started talking and talking, openly sharing their experiences of sexual harassment, fear, frustration and inequality. Like many others in leadership positions, I knew instantly we had to respond to this mood change, and quickly. This was the moment to jump into the riptide and go with it. We immediately sought support from government to expand our 2018 National Survey on Workplace Sexual Harassment to include data by industry for the first time.
So we'll leave Kate Jenkins speaking there at the National Press Club.